I was having issues with my internet today. Hopefully this will go well. Okay, it looks fine. Okay, welcome folks. We're ready to go. We're going to be spending some time on our projects. I want to go over our what's due section. Today is October 22nd, and on the 17th we'll have an exam, and we will be doing our presentation to me on the December 1st. So let's get started. And if you have any additional questions, please put it in the chat, and our moderators will be checking on that and letting me know. And Lily is promoted to co-host today. Oh, excuse me. At least I didn't infect anybody when I sneezed. That's the good part. Okay, so let me share my screen. Everybody sees my screen. Somehow this isn't, do you see my screen here? Lily, do you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So now I see my Zoom meeting. I'm going to go to what's due. I have what's due section. I will go over what's due. We have a guest speaker that's scheduled to come in today who is doing a practice of AI governance. And it's quite of an interesting practice, and we'll be discussing his new practice plus maybe how we can contribute. But if you look at what was due this past Monday was on cloud computing, and I asked you to look at these additional readings here. I asked you for these additional readings of an AI caller and the quick start of VAPI. VAPI stands for Voice Application Programming Interface. After next week, I will be asking each of you to gain phone numbers that will be intelligent callers, AI callers, where someone can dial and get information. It's pretty neat conversationally. So next week on Wednesday, on the 29th, is our part 2 of our final project. So part 1 needs to be completed beforehand and getting approval. So reach out to Lily to make sure that your project has been approved. We'll go into the chapter 14 of artificial intelligence, and I'll have additional readings of cloud computing where you see here of answering the question, what is cloud computing? Some examples, benefits, the types, and uses of cloud computing. So at this point, I want to go to the audit assignment instructions, and this is the key here. If you look at it, is this part right here. This is due next Wednesday, and this you will be using Wix. I have an academic partnership where Wix, we can get their business plan upgrade. So the idea here, if you go through it, is you'll be going to wix.com and you'll be getting started, and you will be creating for next week a Wix website. You'll be creating that Wix website that will include upgrading to the business plan, where one person in your group with a credit card will sign up and then assign other people in your group to be co-administrators. This is the code in which you will be getting this, and you'll be editing your site, where you will have for next week, you'll complete it by next week. You'll have a mission statement. You'll describe briefly what you want your services to be, your team page, where you'll have professional pictures of everywhere. You'll have your AI generated logo. You'll have a contact page, and you'll publish your site, and you'll start creating social media accounts. The social media accounts that are based on your Wix site, you'll be creating accounts. You decide which account, social media accounts you want. Among these, you can use TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram. We will also be using a YouTube channel where you will also be publishing some recordings. You can even do short reels, and you'll be posting with using AI tools. There's so many out there. You can discover those. And for part one, you came up with 3 apps, but really I'm expecting you to do more research on this. And before next week, I want you to think about a domain name, but I don't want you to upgrade to your domain name yet, because I want you to have a very good domain name. I do not want to have domain names that say BTE Group 4, anything like that. I want it to be Wealth Managers or Wismore Biz, something like that. You'll place it in your audit documentation, and from now on, when you'll have a URL, even if you don't upgrade to a final one, you'll have a Wix one. When you publish it, you'll put it right in front of your group, like you have here in group 0. Okay? If I go to Wix.com, you can see in Wix.com, they have, go to here where it says pricing. And in pricing, and please make a note of it, you see here, Connor, where it says $39 business recommended. This, I recommend that you use this. With the code that I've supplied to you, you can get this package for free. When you make sure when you get the package for free, you want to make sure when you're signing in that you use the code and it says 0. If it does not say 0, copy the screen and let myself and Lily know I do not want you to pay any money for this. In this case, you get a free domain for a year. You get 100 gigs of storage space. It can be multi-cloud hosting. You get a marketing suite. You get a standard e-commerce if you want to be selling. You get scheduling and services. And what they've changed here on the 10 site collaborators is that you then, one person puts in their credit card, they will not be charged, and you can make your other collaborators, you can make them, or your other group members, you can make them code administrators. If you start for free, you confirm with an email, you can go in with an email there. I'll start with this one. Let's see if it'll let me. You have an account again. So once you, let me just go back here. Once you sign up and you put your email there, you will get then templates that you can be able to either use their templates or your vibe coding. I suggest that you enter your templates and use one of their templates to use. If we go to, let me just see here. In the assignment groups, if you see it, you can see this was one of the ones that we used, that Daniel used. Let me open it up in a new window that you can see here. He basically had a domain name called BTE210-J. He basically then had here, if you can see later on, we'll be doing our VAPI. It's called our VAPI AI agent. You'll be getting a phone number with VAPI. Notice here, later on, we'll even have the AI podcast you can do based on your URL. Once your website is more complete, you can get a notebook LM to appear. We used, in this case, we used a fastbot. You can then incorporate, like we saw last time with VAPI, you can incorporate your VAPI where you can have a conversation. You can have a conversation as well. And then you can see about our team. This should be done for next week. So in the first one of the home of what you intend to do, helping AI elevate your business, stating what you attempt to show. You will attempt to show then about your team. And here you can do graphics. Here you can see David and Isa and Lily. You want to have descriptions based on it's a business. You don't, you can, in passing, of course, you can say that you're part of the University of Miami, but it's not that I'm that this is my business project, but rather you want to focus in on how you're going to help your company. So here, Daniel was the chief visionary architect. Isa has a role. Lily has a role, and what she's doing for the company. You want to have somewhat professional pictures there, not just when you're at the beach. Okay. What other areas that I want you to have? And then later on, you'll see what the later is. You'll be having what you'll be offering as services, right? And booking of your services. You'll be able later on to, everyone will have videos showing, each person in your group will have videos explaining some AI consulting features that you will. You'll have frequently asked questions of a help center and a contact page. And your contact page will also have in other places too your social media. Okay, so let me close that. Lily, you want to,
Yeah, I'm gonna add my website on just as like another example.
okay.
Um,
And any other points in which you want to let me know of what
uh,
I'm missing here?
I mean, I guess we want to highlight more of like how important social media is, but I feel like
Right,
that's more or less
right,
down the line when they start
right.
to develop the website more.
And it should be continual, not just slapping in a couple of
Oh
pictures,
no,
but rather engaging.
like something you can't leave to last minute. You have
No,
to
no, it has to be
add into
continuing
it.
on the part. And
Right.
basically think about it. What I want you to do is I want you to create a business that you are all AI consultants for certain types of businesses, and that it's real. Think about it, that you could actually do it. And there can be ways in which you can bring in experts if you want. You could have webinars at a certain time that you could have them discuss with students. If it was for students getting jobs, that you could get people from outside the field to be coming in, that you could invite them. You could host them on YouTube Live and Zoom. You could basically all your services have your potential, like if you were working with wealth managers, you could have a way in which you could help them even in social media and doing their reaching out to their clients and show them how they can do it. And in your demonstrations, I want each of you in your group to show some type of AI applications that will help your designated clientele. Did you want to show that, Lily?
Like show my site
Yeah.
or
Or
yeah,
go through? Yeah,
I could go through my site. I
yeah.
mean, I don't believe that, at least for my site, my social media is as impressive as
Okay, do you want
like
me
it
to go
should
to
be.
another one? I could go.
I could show I
What?
could show Thomas's website.
Okay, why don't you do that? Can you get in or I will?
Yeah, I can get in. I
Okay.
can show it. Yeah. I'll share my screen.
Okay, this was from last semester, one of our students, right? And you can make it. So basically, what I like about, and this you'll play around with it, a number of templates there where you'll have, for instance, I want to see some kind of moniker that you have. So for instance, here is Real Ease, right? AI.org. So his domain name matches his company name. I like it that it says smart real estate starts here. And then when we look at it, we help new and independent agents simplify their business with everyday AI tools. Tell your potential clients what are you going to do for them. Next week, I want, and then if you go up a little bit, you can see everybody. You can decide where you want your home pages, how you want it designed. They have here the Notebook Live demo, the Canva AI live demo, which is really nice. AI property investments, booking now. I want you, and you can put this in your notes, I want you to give free consultations in the beginning. Notice here, I really like the idea of how they describe themselves. Of I join Real Ease AI to build something, right? And then she tells about herself. But in the beginning, it's more what she's doing for the company. And at the end is what you're studying in school that can add credence and credibility and that you're authentic. But it's not starting off about you. I am a sophomore at the University of Miami. I wouldn't even put so much, Lily. I don't even like in this one, I'm a sophomore at the University of Miami. Why? Connor, why don't you like it that they put Peyton as a sophomore, Thomas is a sophomore? What's not good about it? Why don't I like it? Connor.
It could make them seem inexperienced.
One in inexperience, and guess what? How about if it's a year after or 2 years after? Are they still sophomores? So at the present, was studying at the University of Miami is fine. So I wouldn't even put that you're a sophomore or junior. Basically, you have a background of you've majored in, finance or whatever you're majoring in or whatever your strengths are. I want this to be real, but that's a good note, Lily. You see that? It's a good note even to see what we don't, you know what I mean? Even though it's good, what we critique, I don't need to know you're a sophomore thing. I can say that you have been, has knowledge in, I would say that Anne is, studying, finance at the university. I wouldn't even put your sophomore, freshman, senior, because even in 6 months from now, you won't be a sophomore or one. And notice, call VAPI AI agent in the bottom with the phone number at ease here. And then they even have they copyrighted it, and they used, at that point, they used the FastBot, which is a chat bot. You can have it embedded. You could use your VAPI at this point. That's the one thing that's good. Lily, I don't know. We'll decide whether we can discuss it with Daniel, whether we want FastBot or not.
Right.
We could, because you can incorporate the conversational AI. Tell me about it, but it's not going to be telling you as much about your company. We'll see what we want to do with that.
And then this is their
What?
contact page. I was
Yeah.
showing their contact page.
Mm-hmm. That is there. Okay, questions. So we'll try to do that even you have something for Monday, even though it's due on Wednesday, that we can get some feedback upon, and then reach out to myself and Lily if you have questions. And Colin, are you there?
I am. How are you, Professor?
I am just wonderful. Now I can talk to you. I think I haven't seen you, Dr. Connors, huh? Congratulations. Huh?
Thank you.
I'm just so pleased. First of all, I'm so honored to have you here. And what I'd like you to do is talk about it. What I'm having in my class is, these are business students from a number of, and we're talking about technology, and their project is that they're broken up into teams, and they have to give services of AI consultants in certain sectors. So they're going to be AI consultants in wealth management and mental health, in basically for small businesses, for advertising. They get to choose something that they know about, that they can give their services. This needs to be, we work with, I have an academic partnership with a number of companies. And for instance, Wix allows our students to get their business plan. So they get free URL, they get a free domain name for a year. They get where they can collaborate a number of ways. So Wix is in there. We're going to be using VAPI. They're going to get an ID caller where they can get a phone number for free, and then they can use a large language model to program that. And basically, I want that to be real. So I don't want fake testimonials. I want their services in the beginning to be free, because nobody knows them, nobody trusts them. And they're going to be doing social media. I want them to use AI social media, but anytime they use that social media on their site and their services, that they state that they're using that social media. So they're saying that this basically these images were created by, give credit to those AI, and they're using, they'll do a podcast in Notebook, in a Google Notebook LM. So there'll be a podcast about their company. And then all these services they can do for you. So I was thinking, before I even introduce you, that we can even think about, maybe they could help you in thinking about AI governance, and going out to some of these businesses and even have one of their services, since they're just starting, to be giving AI governance issues, and even bringing in experts someone like you, I say they don't know it all, and they admit they don't know it all, but we can gain access to experts that can help you. What do you think about that idea?
I like it. I think it sounds good.
Okay, but and if it doesn't, that's fine too. You know what I mean? I don't want to corner you and
Yeah.
say it, but I'm just telling you that that is a possibility that once they hear about you, that they can even be aware. I think most people among the students and among businesses have no idea about this AI governance. They have no idea. They know in terms of compliance and accounting. And I have a number of students in this class that are accounting and finance majors, right? And they know about some things about auditing and things that we need to comply with in rules, but they don't know how they can need to be complying with AI.
Fabulous. So hopefully we can teach everyone today all about that.
Yeah, and then later
Yeah.
on, don't get me straight that we don't have to. I'm not pulling you in and you having, to deal with all these students. But you understand, but it's an idea that our very best of the best later on may say, hey, we'd like to work with you, or we have family businesses, or we have companies that we work with that could use your services.
I
That
love
they're
it.
being aware of
Fabulous.
it.
Perfect. Perfect. Do you want me? I have some slides. I don't know if you want me to dive into those.
Yeah, I'd like you to do both. I'd like you to do
Perfect.
some slides to give a introduction, to give them a background because they're really not familiar with it. And then have, let's say now it's 5:36. I'd like around 6 to open it up, for questions and see what we can do. Make it a short presentation, but give them a flavor of what all of this means.
Fabulous.
And if you could introduce yourself. Colin, we've known each other for a while. You've been in my presentations, among those, and I respect you highly. Okay.
Fabulous. Let me go ahead. I'll share my screen
Yeah,
here.
sure. You
I'll
should
give you
be able to.
guys. So I stole these slides from a separate presentation I did. So some of these things I'm going to
Perfect.
skip through because they're not
Yeah,
relevant, but
right.
I want to keep it relevant to what you
Yes,
guys are doing in your
right.
class.
And also
So
to educate them, Colin, what they need to do as business, going out to businesses, and graduating. They need to be educated on this.
yeah. So I'm Colin Connors. I just graduated with my PhD from the University of Miami in May. So I am now Dr. Colin Connors. And I'm our AI consulting practice lead at ERM Protect. So ERM Protect's a full service cybersecurity company. We do all different kinds of cyber things. And our most recent practice that we've launched is our AI consulting practice. So this is helping organizations understand the risk that AI poses to them so that we can help them work through those risks and govern that risk in a managed way without stifling innovation. I've done pretty much all of my background in AI, so I've developed lots of different AI models myself for detecting phishing, cryptocurrency scams, malware. I published papers, done all of the academic stuff, and now I'm leading it out here in the non-academia world. But I want to skip down through some of my slides and kind of start talking about what does it mean when we're implementing AI, right? Because if we're going to try to manage risk around AI and create a governance strategy, we need to first understand what it is that we are protecting, right? So I've stolen this model from OWASP. So for those of you who are not familiar, OWASP is an organization who does web security. So they've created a bunch of different frameworks and guidelines for how we manage security on the web. They're super famous for their web application security. So in the security world, we talk about them a lot. And they've created a model for AI for how we should be protecting these. And OWASP, what they do in their model, they break it down into 4 layers. So the first layer we have to think about when we're talking about the risk AI poses to us and how we protect that risk is the model layer. So this is the actual model that is running on some machine. So to give you guys context, you're probably very familiar with tools like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini. So Microsoft Copilot's a great example here. It has the underlying model, the thing that is giving you your answers is OpenAI's GPT-5 or 4, depending on the version of Copilot you have. But what that's to say is that just because you have some fancy front end, something covering it, you still have some underlying model, right? And oftentimes that underlying model is too difficult for us to build ourselves, and we're going to rely on some third party, right? If I'm building a large language model, I don't have the compute power, the money, the resources to train a large language model. I'm going to rely on OpenAI's GPT-5. I'm going to rely on Google's Gemini. I can use smaller language models if I want, but that's my underlying model. So that's the first thing I need to make sure I'm covering, right? If I'm using somebody else's model, I need to understand the third-party risk that poses to me and my organization. Or if I'm developing my own model layer, I need to understand what kind of risk those pose. So sitting on top of the model layer is the implementation layer. So this is the layer that actually lets us integrate and use those models. So again, going back to our example of like Copilot, you can think about like the Microsoft Graph API. So Microsoft has an API that's available, and you can query that API to interact with Microsoft's Copilot model. If you're familiar with ChatGPT, OpenAI has their own API that you can query and get back information. Now, if we were the ones building the model, right, we might write some custom Python code that allows our users to interact with the model. So when we're thinking about securing the implementation layer, we need to start thinking about traditional security things that we would have for these APIs for our custom webhooks. Whatever we've done to allow the user to interact with the model is going to introduce a new layer of risk. And again, a lot of times organizations don't actually care about the implementation layer, right? Think about an organization who might be using Microsoft Copilot. I don't care what the model is. I'm going to trust that OpenAI has built a good model. I don't actually care how it's implemented, right? I might not be interacting with those APIs. I might just be using the front end. But those still introduce risk through third-party risk or through other forms of risk there. On top of that, we have our system layer. So our system layer is the infrastructure that's actually required to host the model, right? So think your actual hardware where the model lives. So these are going to be servers. These are going to be hard drives. Ideally, they're in a secure location. And again, if we go back to kind of our analogy with ChatGPT and Copilot, Copilot lives in the Azure cloud environment. So Microsoft has their cloud environment where they have servers all around the world that are actually hosting the Copilot model. OpenAI has a similar OpenAI secure cloud, which is running on their cloud, on their servers, hosted all over the world. If we were building our own model or implementing our own model, we might have our own local server, right? Here at ERM Protect, we have a big server room where we keep all our servers. Lots of organizations might outsource that, right? I might have a data center where my server lives. I might be using somebody else's cloud, right? Maybe I'm using Amazon Web Services as my cloud provider, or Google's cloud as my cloud provider to host my model. And again, there's traditional cybersecurity risk here. So whenever we're hosting things in the cloud, that comes with its own risk and data privacy regulations, right? Whenever I'm hosting something locally, I need to make sure that the way users connect to that is secure. So again, this layer is mostly traditional cybersecurity risk that we have and that we need to manage with it. So then the final layer in the AI stack layer model is the runtime layer. This is probably the layer you're most familiar with, right? The runtime layer is the one that users are actually interacting with. So like we saw earlier just now, I saw that website had a chatbot agent, right? When I click on that chatbot agent, I'm interacting with the runtime layer of that chatbot. When you go to ChatGPT's website and you start talking to ChatGPT through the website, you're interacting with the runtime layer. When I open Copilot in my PowerPoint, you can see here I have Copilot available. When I open it up, you can see that I'm going to have access to Copilot's runtime layer that can interact with the system. Now, this layer is unique. Just like the model layer, this comes with its own set of risk, right? When I have these plugins, how that plugin can interact with data can be very dangerous. When I'm using ChatGPT's website, right, there's traditional web issues that could go wrong there. In fact, ChatGPT, OpenAI had a vulnerability on their website that let you see other users' chat history. So you can imagine that's a big deal, right? think of everything that you've ever told ChatGPT, you probably don't want somebody else seeing your history. So when we're implementing AI, right, when we're building services around AI, we need to consider the risk that each of these layers poses to our organization, right? It's not just the runtime layer. It's not just the model we're building, but it's the system the model lives on. It's how the model communicates with the rest of the world. It's how the user interacts with the model. All of these present new areas where risk can affect our organization. So I'm going to skip through here. I talk a little bit about in this presentation creating AI strategy, but I think it'd be more helpful to go and talk about some of these AI risk. So I've gone through and I grabbed over the last year a couple common high-profile news stories where users were using AI and it caused some kind of problem. So this first one, this is one of my favorites. Going back to the chatbot on the website that we just saw. So this happened when GM, Chevy dealership, had a chatbot on their website. So users could talk to the Chevy dealership's chatbot and ask it questions. And so one user was using the chatbot. He was talking to it, asking it questions. And the user said, hey, these responses seem kind of weird. It seems like I'm talking to an AI. The user keeps probing it a little and he quickly realizes this is just ChatGPT. It's some runtime layer, and in the background, it's just running ChatGPT and answering all my queries. So the user decides, I'm going to try something. I'm going to ask it to write some code. Right? If you're a chatbot on a car dealership website, there is no reason you should be writing code. But the chatbot goes and it gives the user valid code, right? It does what ChatGPT does and answers his prompt and writes some code. So the user goes, okay, this is already kind of sketchy. I wonder what else I can make this do. So he keeps talking to the chatbot, and eventually he gets the chatbot to agree to sell him a $76,000 car for just $1, which is crazy, right? Obviously, no human would ever do that. So the user, he goes into the Chevy dealership. He says, hey, your AI told me it's going to sell me this car for $1. Here's my dollar. I want the car. And the dealership says, yeah, we're not going to go with that. We're going to ignore our chatbot here. Clearly, that was just a mistake on the chatbot. We're not going to sell you the car for $1. So that user, unfortunately, did not get his car for $1, but others have been held liable for their chatbot. So Air Canada had a chatbot on their website. So you could talk to the Air Canada chatbot to figure out what Air Canada's policies were. So one user had a death in their family and they had to cancel their flight. So they go to the Air Canada chatbot. They say, hey, I've had a death in the family. I really want to know what your bereavement policy is. If I cancel my flight, can I get a refund? The chatbot thinks for a second and comes back and says, yes, if you've had a death in the family, you can get a refund. Here's the documentation you need to provide. The user says, great. So they cancel their flight and later they go to get their refund. So they call up an actual human customer support. They say, I have all of my documentation. Can I get my refund? The human says, that's not our policy. Air Canada doesn't have a bereavement policy that says you can get a refund in the case of a death in the family. The user says, no, your chatbot told me. I made plans around that. I canceled my flight. I have screenshots. I have all of this evidence. And the customer support agent said, sorry, there's nothing I can do. The user then took Air Canada to the Canadian courts, and the Canadian courts agreed with the user that if your chatbot tells a user something, you are liable for that information. So Air Canada had to give the customer a refund. So think about that when you're putting chatbots on your website. The law, it's still evolving, but in Canada, at least, you are liable for what your chatbot says. So if you don't have proper controls to control that chatbot, you could be in pretty big trouble, right? You don't want to be the Chevy dealership selling a $70,000 car for $1. Here's another fun one. This is one of my favorites. Google's Gemini for the CLI. So a developer was using Gemini and they had it integrated with their terminal. And the user was asking it questions. It was helping them write commands in their command line. And eventually Gemini wrote a command that would delete all of the files on the user's computer. The user not paying attention runs the command that Gemini gave them and deleted all of their files on their computer, right? So just because AI is telling us something is going to happen does not mean it's good, right? AI hallucinates, it makes things up, and these hallucinations can cause real damage when we are integrating that directly into systems. So another very famous case of the AI risk, which all of you should feel related to at least, right? A professor in 2023, right after ChatGPT came out, got back his end of the year papers and he said, these papers are too good. I don't believe my students wrote these. So he goes and he takes each paper and he puts it into ChatGPT and he says, hey, ChatGPT, was this paper written by ChatGPT? And for every paper that he provided, ChatGPT said, yes, this was written by ChatGPT. This is clearly AI generated content. So the professor failed all of his students. He said, you guys didn't do the assignment. I said you had to write this paper yourself, and you all clearly used ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT and it told me you used it. Thankfully, some of the students had written their paper using things like Google Docs. So they had all of their history available, and they complained to the dean and showed him, hey, look, we actually did write this. Here's our history. You can see every keystroke we made. Clearly, we didn't use ChatGPT for this. And the dean thankfully agreed with the students and had the professor undo failing all of his students. But again, it's so easy for these chatbots to make a hallucination, which can cause huge reputational risk, right? Everyone loves a good story about AI gone wrong. Here's perhaps one of the most famous ones. And this one, despite being so famous, happens all of the time. So in the legal field, you have to be very particular about what you're doing, right? As a lawyer, you're going to have to come up with good citations that are actual case law, present those, make your argument to the courts. But it can be so tempting to use these AI agents because they are really good at what they do. So a lawyer in a case against Walmart had generated fake citations. So he submitted a brief to the court. He had a citation in there, and the court looks at it, says, great, this looks like a normal legal brief. The other side starts reviewing it. The other side looks at it and goes, I can't find this citation. They go back to the judge and say, Judge, we can't find the citation. The lawyer, turns out, wrote the brief using ChatGPT, and it just made up a citation. Now, at first, they were fining lawyers who were doing this, and now it seems that the standard is going to, they are disbarring lawyers who are doing this. So this is a very prevalent problem. And that case, unfortunately, is not the only one of a lawyer using a tool like ChatGPT to write their legal briefs. It is shockingly quite common. So again, you are liable for what the chatbot says, especially like these lawyers were liable for the content of their chatbot. So when we have public-facing chatbots, we have to be very careful that we have controls in place to manage that risk. Because if we don't, we could be held liable. We could be this lawyer. We could be the Chevy dealership selling cars for $1, right? We do not want to be in the news for our AI bots. So to talk a little bit about some of the common AI risk, I know we talked about it through examples in our stories just now. One super common AI risk is data loss. So when organizations are using AI within their organization, they risk leaking all of their information to those AI bots. So for example, when you're using Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft is getting all of your data. And if you don't have the right controls in place, Microsoft could be doing who knows what with your data. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with tools like Otter AI. It's one of those AI note taker tools. So sometimes I hop in Zoom meetings and they have the Otter AI bot in there taking notes. Otter AI is currently being sued because they allege they were recording conversations without permission and they're training on users' data. So imagine I say something sensitive in a meeting, right? I'm talking about confidential research that I'm doing. I'm talking about clients and their security. And the AI records that. Otter AI uses that as part of their training data. And another user queries Otter AI asking it a question. And since it was trained on my data, it gives back an answer from my data. So, and again, this happened in the early days of the LLMs back in 2022, 2023. A lot of large tech companies, their developers started using it. So Samsung had a developer using it. Amazon had developers using ChatGPT. and Amazon's legal counsel had asked ChatGPT a question, and it came back with a response very specific to Amazon. So it knew a secret from Amazon. And the legal counsel realized ChatGPT had trained on a user's question and regurgitated it back to them. So Amazon put a bunch of controls in place immediately to restrict how they were using those. So data loss continues to be one of the scariest and biggest risk of using AI agents. Another one you're probably all very familiar with are the hallucinations. So large language models don't know everything, right? They're not omniscient beings that know all of the universe. They like to make things up. And those hallucinations can be so dangerous, right? If we use AI to represent ourselves and it hallucinates, we could be liable for those hallucinations. Reputational damage. You saw just there's a whole bunch of news stories of AI gone wrong. In fact, there's a bunch of sites that I'm a big fan of that track AI incidents. So there's the AI incident database. MIT keeps an AI incident database. There's lots of different ones out there, but they track all of these different reputational harms. So if you're ever looking for a good story, there's millions out there of how people have used AI poorly and it's caused to negative headlines. And the last thing is that integrating AI increases your attack surface. If I'm a malicious actor and I want to attack your organization and steal your data, if you have an AI, that's just another point for me to attack. So one thing I do in my day job is I do a lot of AI pen tests. So this is me attacking organizations' AI bots to try to understand what kind of information I can get. So one of my favorite things to do during these AI pen tests is ask the AI bot, I say, give me all of the passwords you know. Now, if your bot is connected to your organization, so for example, think Microsoft Copilot, it's connected to your Microsoft environment, or Google Gemini, if you're using Google, it's connected to your Google environment. So when I ask a question like, give me all the passwords you know, it will go through that entire environment, find any passwords, and give me those passwords. Right, so I've done this a lot. Every time I've done an AI pen test, I have found a list of passwords just sitting within the organization. So dangerous. So when it comes to managing that AI risk, I kind of break AI governance into 4 different categories. I would say 2 of these are bad categories, 2 of these are acceptable. So the first bad category I call the head in the sand approach. I see this, unfortunately, far too often where organizations say, I don't care. I'm going to ignore AI. I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist. I'm going to do nothing around it. Users can use it. They can't use it. I don't know. I'm not going to tell users anything. My head's in the sand. Now, this causes so many problems because users don't know how they can use AI. So they might end up using it insecurely. Or they might not be using it at all, and it might be costing you productivity. So the head in the sand is not a good AI governance strategy. Another bad AI governance strategy I call the bring your own AI. So this is, okay, you're allowed to use AI at our organization, but we're not going to provide any AI tools for you. You can go out there, find your own, whatever you like, and use it. Problem with this is, as an employer, you don't know what your employees are doing with that AI. You have no way to manage the risk that they are posing to you. You have no way to combat the data loss. So again, super dangerous if you're just letting employees do whatever they want with AI. The next one, this no AI policy, is an acceptable policy if that is where your risk tolerance is at. So I've worked with organizations like banks who are very conservative, very wary of risk, and their policy is employees are not allowed to use AI at all within our bank. This is starting to become less common, especially throughout 2025, I've seen less people with the no AI strategy. But if you do have a no AI strategy, it has to be an enforced no AI strategy, right? You can't just tell users you can't use AI, because what are they going to do? They're going to use AI anyways. So this is using things like your firewall, using the tools that you already have in place to limit users' access to AI. And finally, what I call the best strategy is having a formalized AI governance program. So this is having tools and policies, procedures, and technical measures in place to allow users to use AI, but also give your organization insight into how they're using it so that you can manage that risk. So we are just at 6 o'clock here.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and open up the floor.
Yeah, stop sharing. We can go through it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you guys go.
Yeah. One is, Colin, thank you. I think people aren't aware of it. People are just excited, and among our students, right? ChatGPT is king, right? For anything, and then the university's doing it. What do you see most organizations doing incorrectly?
Data security has definitely been one of the biggest challenges. So organizations want to move fast, right? This is cool stuff. I love using AI. I mean, I use it in my daily work. It's a lot of fun and it does so many fun things. And so organizations want to use it. And so they're rolling it out to their employees, but they're not considering how dangerous that data loss can be. So I suspect in the next couple years, we're going to see a lot more of these headlines of company ABC has leaked data to an AI. I've seen some headlines where attackers asked, give me company ABC's business plan. And it goes through, and because people at that organization might have talked about like secret business things, it generates a business plan for another company so that you can try to compete with them, which is terrifying. So I think we're going to see a lot of business intelligence using this for probably not the best means. And then I think we're going to see a lot of attackers using this to steal users' information.
And using AI tools to do it with.
Oh yeah, that's attackers are already using AI tools to attack us, which is scary.
And also almost in social engineering, I see it as well.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, the social engineering has been a prevalent issue and it's getting worse. So before I had to type out a phishing email, send it to a bunch of people, respond to them as they come in, continually try to phish them. Now I can do the whole thing automated, use AI. I can use deep fakes. I can call you and I'll sound like your mother. I'll sound like your father, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. One of my friends got this call. It sounded like his girlfriend on the other line. And he ended up calling 911 and 911 says, well, did you call her back to make sure that it was really her? And he goes, no, I just assumed it was. And so he calls her back and she goes, what's up? Nothing's wrong. So it's super dangerous, these things.
Yeah, with the scams. So how are you, developing your practice? What services are you giving? And are there others competing in this realm? Because I would think most of these, this is so brand new that people aren't even trained. They're trained on doing traditional auditing or giving services, security auditing, but nobody thinks about this.
Yeah. So what we are doing at ERM Protect is all about AI governance and strategy. So we want to make sure that you can use AI and be innovative with it, but we want to make sure that you're managing risk. So everything we do, because we are a cybersecurity company, is talk about managing risk. So some things we've done, we've worked with some cities doing AI implementation strategy. So this is how can we roll out AI to our users and get return on investment as we're rolling AI out, but at the same time, make sure that we are taking security into consideration. We do your bread and butter kind of AI pen test. So trying to test for what an attacker could do if they had access to your AI. We've started doing AI-based phishing attacks. So it's not a thing of the future, right? Attackers are using it now. So we are just trying to catch up with the attackers even with how they're using AI to attack you.
And are
We
there
do lots of AI training. Yeah.
Yeah, but is there, like when you think about all those security companies, I was always skeptical. A lot of them are trying to protect you, but then you hear about all the hacks going on. Are there now AI security companies at all that are software? Are you seeing that?
There's definitely AI security software. So there was one, I think they're called Prompt Secure. They were just bought by SentinelOne. They are pretty big in the space. There's some others out there who aren't as big, but this is definitely a space where people are starting to get into and starting to move pretty quick there because there is a high demand for it.
Right. That's what I'm thinking about. How would you even do it? But you're not going to be developing any software in that realm?
No,
help
we don't do
companies?
software development. We mostly do consulting. So
So,
we're
so
outside.
what businesses are you catering to? Who would be an ideal client for you?
Yeah, so we work a lot with local government. So I've done a
Okay.
lot of work with different cities because
Mhm,
they are highly regulated. They care about protecting their data
mhm,
and they want to be innovative, right? Your local government does want to try to do the best for you.
mhm,
We also do some work with banks. Again, banks are highly regulated. They have a lot of very sensitive data that they really do not want leaking into these AIs.
mhm,
So most of our business comes from highly regulated entities.
mhm. That are thinking about it. And are you using AI to help you do this?
It depends on what it is, right? If I'm working with clients and they have sensitive data that they're giving me, our AI policies forbid it. So no. But if I'm working on something like writing a report and I don't have any sensitive data, I'm using AI. I love using AI. It makes me
Right. I
three
would think
times, four
even
times more
for
efficient.
standard policies and procedures, no? And then you're
Yeah, so
still
like,
you're in the loop. You're not just throwing it out. Of course, you're not just saying ChatGPT or any of the others produce a
yeah,
policy and these are the prompts. You have to go over it. But I would think that would be helping. And almost, I could see you giving like a menu of prompts to your customers, and that could be
yeah,
use these, this is the menu, give this to your customers, and when you get your next stage, keep on using these, almost helping me, because I think what's the problem with hallucinations is when they don't do good prompts as well, they don't narrow it down, they don't provide the guardrails that issues are
and
happening. I think you could give it almost as some type of some type of product. That's what I'm thinking about, of a way in which you could handle this.
yeah, and the problem with the AI hallucinations is
Yeah.
they look real, right?
I know, well,
The
if you
AI
especially
hallucinates,
if you're not an expert in the area.
exactly. You have to
That's
have
the
the
key.
expertise.
Right. If you're an expert in a certain part, that's when you can tell that the AI is wrong. But if you're not the expert,
It's
how
going
would
to
I?
look real. Yeah.
Of course, it's always been authoritative, and it's always been kind of like pleasing, right? That
Yeah, yeah,
it wants to help me, it wants to be empathetic, right?
yeah. And ChatGPT, I mean, ChatGPT is probably the worst offender there,
Yeah.
but all of them do
Yeah,
are
but
kind
they
of
all do, but
self-policing.
of being able to use what it can and the overhype. And what is your challenge? Is getting people to is it getting people to understand that they need it?
Yeah, I
Aren't
think
they
one of
clamoring
our
down your door? You know what I mean?
yeah, I think people don't understand as soon as they hear like oh the risk and how you can manage that, they go, "Oh my gosh, I hadn't even considered that." Right? I think so many people started their AI journey by saying, "Let's do something cool," and never even considered this might be posing
Yeah.
some pretty serious risk.
Hmm.
Um, so as soon as what we found is as soon as people find out about the kinds of services we offer, they start clamoring down the door. So
Yeah, I think we should start with this organization. You know, we've had the security people come in, the head of security come in and tell the students, you know, helping them, first of all, educating them, and second of all, telling them what they're doing. And I think they could really use your services. That's just my own opinion there, you know. But
yeah, and
mostly
UM
that they're,
has a whole chief AI officer who been doing some things, but it's mostly been focused at the medical school so far.
I
So
know, and they're trying to do basically helping the students, right? I don't think they, and I think most, I'm not even blaming, you know, our institution, but most of them, you know, it's by the seat of the pants. And in the
and it's been
beginning,
hard.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because you
been a
want to stay
seat of the,
current.
yeah, you want to stay current and they're not. And then it's been traditionally just don't give the services, you know, and it's traditionally just don't do it. And the problem is everybody just goes off on their own. They're curious
Yep,
people and they say, hey, what are you restricting me? Why would you restrict? It's that silly part of saying, no, don't do it. You know, of course you want to do it, especially in an education.
precisely.
Okay, great. Any other comments, questions? Lily, you have anything for comments to Dr. Connors? That we have, or anyone else here? But I think it's interesting. I think it's good for our students to be aware of it. This could be a major thing. You know, they should be, you know, even for the employees, you know, of security awareness. It should be this AI awareness that people aren't even just with these bots, what you can query with them, you know?
Yeah, and that's been a trend. We've already started doing AI training sessions for our clients as part of their regular security awareness training.
Yeah,
I
but
suspect the others will catch up very quickly.
yeah, no, but I think it's just not, in the past, it was just how to use AI, you know, it was like the thing, everybody, how do you get what they were worried about, get everybody to use Copilot, you know, and how to use it
Yep.
in Word. That's what they've been focusing, but they first should be,
They haven't thought about the risk. Yeah.
they
Especially, I
have,
mean, academia has a unique set of risk with the types of
yeah,
work we
right,
do.
right. And the bots that can be interrogated. And also, you know, I just saw, I guess it was yesterday, they talk about, and you can't believe it. You remember the Nigerian scam where, you know,
Yep.
they would send out, you know, send me money. I have 10 million and just sign off and I'll give you 1 million or something. So nobody would fall for it. But I know within this university, right, a law professor fell for it. And then yesterday I saw they had a soap star, you know, somebody created a fake and created a relationship with this woman, said, you know, I lost my house in the LA fires, you know, send me money. You
Yeah.
say, who would buy something like that? But she did, you know, and this daughter just stopped her, you know, don't sell your condo for this soap star, you know, but now the fakes are so real, right? Even I was telling the security, sometimes they call me and they say, you know, you're in violation. And I said, how do I know who you are? You know, how do you even get my number? And I made
Yeah.
them, you know, send me an email and give me your number that I can call back, you know. So it's easy to buy it, and everybody wants to be helpful, you know, so it's a great one. Okay, send my regards to Silka, first of all, and let's think about ways in which we can help you, you know, in promoting this. Is an important issue for not only our students, but for everyone going into business. You know, we're just so excited to use all these bots, and the only thing everybody's worried about is going to take away my job, but they don't even think about the other side is
Yeah.
they're going to take my data away. And I see it all the time with these AI note takers. The other day I had a meeting and the person didn't show up, but their note taker showed up
Oh
because
my gosh.
it's hooked to their calendar, right? And they
Yeah,
were
I think the AI note takers are one of the worst
yeah,
things.
but I'm just saying it's hooked to the calendar. So I told the note taker, I said, tell your boss that they missed the meeting, you know?
That's funny.
But that was the greatest. I said I could have the meeting already because that was the idea. I think the head of Zoom also said that he was going to do, you know, the bot that he would train it to be a good negotiator and just send the bot to the meeting, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then you got to worry when you're negotiating with the bot, are you going to be selling the $70,000 car for $1?
you're right. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much for coming out. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
Okay. Bye. Thank you. Well informed. Okay. So this is how they're making, this is his new practice, trying to educate people in AI governance. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Lily, you want to do attendance for me?
Yeah, I'll get that.
And then I'll stay with you as long as you need to. And Monday we'll start, I'll go over subjects of the cloud and AI and hear what you're doing. 5494, you want to put it in the chat? And otherwise, we can do that. Okay. And you can stop sharing. We have it in the chat. Anything else? Everybody got their attendance.
So Dr. Rush, Valerie has been having a hard time getting onto Wiley Plus. I told you about it
Yeah,
earlier.
can you share your screen? Vote.
Yeah. It lets me.
And Dr. Rush, did you stop your YouTube live?
Thank you so much.
I
See?
stopped